So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And while I don't have my regular Paddy with me today, I do have another Paddy, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paddy Silk. Paddy is our resident Man United fan. We get on to the podcast whenever we play United. But also, Paddy is you may have heard him on the BHBN Midlands radio as well. He does a lot of work there too, and he's based in the Midlands. And I think this might be the 5th or 6th time we've had you on, Paddy, to talk about Man United.
Love it.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ned. Thank you very much. It's good, and obviously the Irish connection is always important to me, and you're from Galway as well, so a Silk meeting a Galway Silk, as you know, with a knee. So that's good with me. That's good with me.
Exactly.
So but
it's very much. Very much
so
Galway name Silk is.
Absolutely.
But look, I could talk about Galway all day long, and I know you could as well. But the elephant in the room here, Paddy, I think is look. Last night you're coming off the back of an evening whereby when we set this up, I was actually convinced you guys were going to win, and then I don't know what type of performance you guys put in last night, but it wasn't one I could imagine that any of the fans would be too enthused about going into the season. Talk to me about last night first. Maybe the mannerisms of the team, the setup. What was your feeling on the game itself? Because it was a pretty poor game up by both sides, I think.
It was a very poor game, and everybody said it was a poor game. Even the pundits and all the journalists and everybody coming onto Twitter and coming onto social media saying it was a poor game all the way along. But I was one of the people that didn't really want this Europa Cup final to go. Same with Spurs as well. I mean, how can you have two teams floundering at the bottom of the league in a Europa Cup final, going for Champions League, when we're nowhere near Champions League format? But I just don't get the United faithful who think that we can get Champions League qualifications from that game. But again, it was set up again, wasn't it? Where he played Mount, he played Hoyland. Obviously, he had to play the goalkeeper Onana, who's been just useless all year, and he did, and then he made changes towards the very end, but it was just far too late in the game. There, I mean, it was Spurs were on the back foot towards the last 20 minutes. They obviously got the goal early on, but in the first half, but it was all hands. But I get that, but there's no way United were going to get that goal back. We haven't got a natural goal scorer up there. There was a chance off the line. There was fantastic off the line chance there by the Spurs defender, got it off the line, and Luke Shaw got that header. But to be fair, that was it really. And the die was cast from the first time. I just thought our Spurs going to win this final, like Palace, like Newcastle this year. It's the first time for some of these sides that haven't won anything for a long, long time to win something, and it happened. I just had a feeling during the day, but United. But again, I'd never believed in any sense of the word that we were deserving of getting the Champions League place. You guys obviously far better than us at the moment, and you deserve it. Even a Palace side would deserve if they were in there, but no, it wasn't a good night. And I'm to be fair, I'm very highly critical of everything United there. To be fair, really am.
Talk to me about the manager. We were talking about this off air, and I actually cut the conversation and said, this is good stuff we're going to get into here about the manager himself. Look, I think Ruben Amaral, I don't know whether he's playing on the fact, whether he's an emotional man or whether he's playing on the fact of things being lost in translation, but he more or less, to my view, and anything I've seen about him afterwards, he's more or less threw his hands up in the air and kind of said, what do you expect me to do, afterwards, which was kind of quite strange for me because, he obviously has a game to play at the weekend. There was rumours abound that he was going to play all the kids at the weekend and see what he has there, because there's conflicting views about whether United need to sell a lot of players this summer, whether they can afford 100 million in transfer fees and so on. And I don't really care about the money side of things. What's your view on the man himself? Has he been any better, any worse, or has he been maybe even more toxic than the likes of Ten Hag, Mourinho, and all those came before him?
Well, he came in after the Villa game, if I remember rightly, because I was there for the Aston Villa Man United and I was in the press conference afterwards. So Amaral came in after that, but Ten Hag had his, and I remember a question, I've not forgotten it, from Mark Ogden from one of the Manchester papers. I said to, we said to Ten Hag, who's going to get the goals for you? And he said, Hoyland. And we all went quiet. I think the next, that Tuesday, when he was relieved of his position with Amarin coming in then from Sporting. And I don't think things have got any better. He's pandered with the same players, different systems. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has kept us going, but the same players he's kept faithful all the way along until, to be fair, the other two teams at the bottom have been so bad, we'd be in the bottom two now. That's how bad things. So I don't think things have got better. I don't really rate the manager. No, I think it's a good idea that he goes, but unfortunately, we've got Ineos behind him, who have really are they going to give him money in the summer? They may not do, because they've got the stadium that they've got to pay for. They've got rid of most of the workforce. To be fair, they're getting rid of the tea lady. I mean, they're going to give Mattis Kuna all that big wages, but they get rid of the tea lady who's going to make the tea. It's a scandal. It's a total scandal, to be fair, at the club. It's a bit of a bad show. So Amarim is going to probably stay there and try and make it work for next year. They hugged him on the pitch last night, Ratcliffe did, which, I mean, what does that say? So they're going to give him another season, aren't they?
Yeah, and look, I think one of the big things for me is, like, he could be looking at that team and he's going, right, okay, let's just say you guys get Liam Delap. Let's just say you get Matthias Cunha. That isn't going to solve your problems. No. You're still going to have Johnny Evans coming off the bench at centre half.
Yeah,
and
Maguire.
You're still going to have Shaw right left back, and you're still going to have Casemiro in midfield. So there's deep rooted problems. They're going to take a couple of transfer windows because some of those players are going to sit there and go, like there's no getting rid of Casemiro unless the Saudis come in and offer him $1 million a week. Like, there's no getting rid of him. So it's going to be interesting what happens there. But
I give a P45. I get rid of all the team. You can't get rid of all the team, but some of that team has got to go soon. But you can't get rid of them. They're on a long contract. Casemiro last night, by the way, you're talking about him. Oh, he was applauded after the semi-final. But I could see a bit longer than that. I could see that things... He'd blown a gale last night trying to chase back for some of them. You could see in the midfield he was overrun. But again, they're going to stay with Onan. They're going to stay with Maguire and Short. Like you've just said, we'll be back to square one. Matthias Cunha is a small fish, a big fish in a small pond at Wolves. He'll come in. And you know what? He's got a bit of a... He's got a small... he's got an issue where if you bug him, he kicks off. I mean, he could be sent off most games, and he may not enjoy the football he's coming into. He said he's coming into a project. I'd love to know what that project is, because it's Project X at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
And which is strange as well, because in fair, like, Ratcliffe is a divisive figure. He's Marmite. Some people say he's doing the right thing. He's got the strict father mentality. He's come in there and he's trying to shake the club and not take no prisoners. And that's probably okay. Look, I think the club probably grew to a stage whereby, it became unmanageable by anyone other than Alex Ferguson. And that's okay, because he, that when you're that good, you're that good. Kind of like the New England Patriots in American football. Their situation had grown so big that only Belichick was able to manage it, and or so it seemed. Then again, they did have Tom Brady, and you guys have lost your Tom Brady. I suppose a couple of years ago when Ronaldo moved to Real Madrid. So there are parallels there, but not exact parallels. But I think potentially streamlining the club mightn't be a bad idea. But my big thing is that he doesn't seem to have any knowledge of the game of football whatsoever. But he's brought in all these guys who do. Jason Wilcox is in there. The guy from Omar, from Man City, has come in. Barada, yeah. So and he brought in Dan Ashworth, wasn't it? Dan Ashworth, who came
he's gone. He got rid of him because
4 months later, because he wanted Southgate or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They had to pay a lot of money to Newcastle to get him in, and they went, "Oh, I don't like him because he's upset the apple cart. We'll get rid of him and pay him more money than they got him for." Now that says something about the decision making at the club, doesn't it? Though, you know what I mean? And that's there's so many cooks. I call that the cook spoiling the broth at United. You got Barada, Jason Wilcox is the recruitment. I mean, the manager doesn't have a say in that now, and this is the problem. Like Aston Villa now, you got. Emery has full control of the club. I think that's fantastic. And that's the way the Villa's model's been. And that's why Villa have done so well. But I don't know I think they must all sit down in a room at United and all argue over who they're going to buy next season. So I think, Gary Neville talked about getting the recruitment right, getting all these people in particular positions. I don't think that works out for me. And I think in Idios, as I call them now, right, they're the
Yes, I
problem.
like it.
You know, they're the problems there. And they were there with the Glazers last night, putting their arms around each other. I thought, do you know what? I'm glad we lost. And I'm glad if we get relegated, just to clear this shower out, to be fair, of this club, because they're not making it easy for ourselves. And like you said, going into transfer market, how much you're going to need, because they're not going to give a lot of money. No way they're going to give a lot of money to him. And if the recruitment's not right, we're back to square one, aren't we?
That's exactly it. The recruitment has to be right, because the players that you guys are selling, like, okay, you might get money for Garnacho or Kobe Mano, but where's the forward thinking in that? You know, there is no forward thinking in that. Yes, it's the pure profit that people talk about from PSR, but you're left, genuinely, you're going to be left to the squad of Lenny Yoro, who is not even 20 yet, and everybody else is 27, 28. You know, so it's obviously that's being facetious. You've got Ahmed and you've got Highland and a couple more there, but you know, where's your leadership group coming from? Most of them, those guys are going to have their feet up already, like Casemiro, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans. Like the fact that United brought back Johnny Evans and he's got meaningful playing time this season has to be a massive alarm bell there. And the fact that they let the likes of Rafael Varane go away. Yes, he wasn't pulling up trees and he was injured an awful lot, but like it's for me that's worrying. But you guys always have a great academy, Paddy, and it's always the case. And there's been rumours abound that Ruben Amaral is just going to play the young kids and see what he has in them on Sunday. The likes of Obi might play. What's your man's name? Friedrichsen. I can't remember that young
Chibo. Is it Chibo, what the new youngster we asked we got right from Arsenal?
He's there's another midfielder guy, and there's also an Irish under 21 that Amarim seems to really like as well, Jason Devaney as well in there. Right. So it sounds like, or I won't say it sounds like, but it seems like we could see a splattering of those at the weekend. Do you think he would be that? How will I put it? After his press conferences, I suppose, after losing a match like that, would it almost be contemptuous of him to the club to go away and throw out 6 under 21 players that have got no real meaningful minutes on the last day of the season? And do you think that could all but seal his fate if he was to do something like that?
He might do that. I don't know, because I would have thrown these kids into the Europa Cup final. Do you know what I mean? Some of them, and it might have made a difference, because these kids had no fear. Like a young Ratcliffe when he first come on. But he made my problem with his decision making is very guarded and not a risk taker, because he didn't for that final. He should have dropped Hoyland, Mount, one or two, but he went, oh no, I've got to stick with them. I've given. He must have said to them, do you know what, lads? I know you haven't done well all season, but please do it for me tonight. And they didn't change. The spots didn't change, did it? So I don't think he may not. I'd be very surprised if he does that, to be fair. I'd be very surprised if he does that. But if he does do that, it'd be lovely to see. But I still think Aston Villa will have the edge with their experience then, still with these experienced players that have played well all season for you, your Morgan Rogers and stuff. So there'll be a handful to deal youngsters to deal with a player of his ilk,
Yeah. Exactly, and like they still have players coming back from injury that they'll probably play, the likes of Xerxes, the likes of even Mason Mount, and
don't mention that fella's name, for Jesus' sake. Mason Mount for me was an error of judgment. Xerxes comes on, and I just think to myself, where do we get him from? Again, another error of judgment in the recruitment stakes at United. And I get a lot of fans having a good go at me for slating our own players. I'm not, but they're not. The low standards of this team is the worst I've seen for a long time. And the high standards, I mean, Emery's building it. I'm going to talk about Aston Villa. They've got the standards of that team is very, very high. The high bar's been very set, and he's built that bar, and it's getting bigger. We've got lower and lower and lower, and you've got to bring in some high standard play, or basically build those high standards again, so we can get back to where we were before. Liverpool have won the league. They've got a high bar, but I put in brackets low standards. That's what happened last night. That low standard team against another low standard Spurs. Well, it was anybody's game, but it's the low standards for me in these players. They're not. Bruno Fernandes, he's an example. That's him. That's the only one I'll give him.
Yeah. But it's so interesting and so compelling, because Alex Ferguson would sell someone and they'd immediately become maybe 20%, 25% worse than they were. You just probably outside of somebody like Nicky Butt. Nicky Butt goes to Newcastle and still plays really, really well for Newcastle. A lot of players that leave Man United, their level drops under Alex Ferguson. Again, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo outside of him too. What we're tending to see, and I think one of the big names that's come back to kind of haunt this recruitment system, and maybe managers not knowing how to play him, is Scott McTominay. He could very easily win. Probably he's going to be in the team of the year in Serie A. Now, obviously, that league is different to the Premier League, but he looks like a man reborn since he's gone out there. And there weren't an awful lot of Premier League teams either. So I'm not saying that it was nonsense to let him go. You guys did the right thing because he wasn't getting game time and so on. But it seems to be that the team is a weight for a lot of these players. It's become a weight. The expectation, and the club itself has become almost dormant at the top because you mentioned about the stadium. They're talking about this lovely 1.5 billion pound stadium that looks like a circus tent and stuff like that or whatever. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but it's lovely architecture from Foster's. But they're talking about this. Yet that's all well and good to have that. You're still going to need to have something on the field as well. There's all well and good having a 60, 70, 80,000 seater stadium or 100,000 seater stadium. You're going to need to have something on the field too. And those 100,000 seats won't be full unless the product in the field starts to get better.
You're right. And to be fair, they lost not qualifying last night. The New York Exchange, obviously there's a loss. Where are they going to get the extra money for play? You're right. Unless we get success on the field, proper success. Portland's having a big Brighton Pavilion stadium, but it'll be full of tourists, I suspect anyway. And all corporate, the corporate thing's a big, huge thing. As Aston Villa, obviously, have done that now, getting rid of some of their fans from the best seats there. But like you've said, it is true. Unless you have a quality, top standard team with great players coming through, like we did in the glory days of Fergie, and I say that there's no point having a beautiful stadium, all lovely painted right, and no holes in the stadium. There's no point to that. And you're right. If we keep going through manager after manager, there is. Amarim says, "I'll give it another year. I'll give it another window." How many windows are we going to take to get this team back to a standard which will sit in that stadium? I mean, the project, they call it the project. For me, I haven't got a lot of faith in this project, and that might be a bit negative. We've got to be a bit more positive about it, but. You have to look at what's underneath this team. Players coming through. There's no players coming through, and maybe give the kids a chance. But our academy, like your academy at Villa's a fantastic academy, bringing back Grealish and a few other great players. We have to rely on this academy. But are those players of the United '92? Are they coming through? And is Amarim using the youth? I don't think he is at all. I think there may be panic at the club possibly to get success for next season. He'd be told, get success or, because that's the sign, isn't it? And that's where it's money. It's money at the end of the day. That, it's money.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where it comes from. Now, Paddy, as well, you've commentated on a couple of Aston Villa games this year with your radio gig as well. How many games did you get to comment on this year?
I've done about 4 or 5 or 6 Villa games this season, actually, at Villa Park. Oh, enjoyable though, fantastic, absolutely.
Yeah,
fantastic.
What's your view? I suppose I know you kind of delved into it slightly there about Emery and how he's built the team, but what's your view on Villa? Obviously, being based up in the Midlands as well, not being a Villa fan. Yeah. What's your view on, I suppose, the growth of that club and being at those matches and seeing the atmosphere and where's your take on where Villa are going?
I think Villa are going in the right direction, and what a brilliant team. And I've got a lot of time for the manager. But I thought this year, and I said I think Champions League is going to, after the PSG game, which I thought you were going to win in that home leg. I thought this is it. McGinn got the goal, but it all stopped, and they said, "Oh, they run out of steam." And suddenly the Palace game happened, and you didn't turn up. I don't know what happened there. And suddenly the season's filtered out, petered out. To be fair, and I just thought, Villa fans want success. I don't care what anyone says. There was a lot of disappointment in Villa fans. They want success. That game against Palace, I know they were very good. Palace, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic. But Villa didn't turn up that day. So there's a worry for me. But I still, the times I've commentated with Aston Villa, they're Morgan Rogers for me has been the player of the season for me. Mark, obviously, you've got Ollie Watkins there as well, McGinn. But Morgan Rogers stands out for me. But will they go on next season? Because look, but Aston Villa want success. They want to see that. They want to see a trophy. There's no point having a fantastic manager, brilliant team if there's no success. That's going to be the bottom dollar, isn't it? That's going to be the common denominator that Villa fans want. No success. Beautiful team, beautiful manager, lovely players, lovely atmosphere at Aston Villa. But no, we're going for 3 trophies, and then suddenly nothing, gone. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say? But
I think you're right in what you said. There was a very kind of flat feeling after the Palace game. Now, obviously, that was amongst the fan base. The players weren't flat because the players went out, and players have basically been unbeaten since. Essentially, we're on a serious charge in the league, and I think we're going to beat Man United. Spoiler alert! I think at the weekend and come up making another results, and we'll have done everything we can at the end of the season. But I do agree with you. There was an incredible flatness among the fan base about that semi-final. And I think that's that. You know what? I was kind of. It took me a while. It took me about a week to get enthused about how flat the fan base were after that, because we're realizing that a window for success stays open for a short period of time. You have Spurs and Man United in 16th and 17th place respectively.
Yeah.
You have Everton with new money coming through the door. You have Chelsea, who are still struggling really to match they're always going to be big spenders. They're bringing in Maresca. I'm not too sure about him, whatever the case may be there. You have Newcastle, who are kind of hamstrung by PSR at the minute, looking to build a new stadium. Obviously, they've got unlimited amounts of cash as well. So the window for Aston Villa to capitalise on this is probably this year, next year, and the year after. I would say there's probably a 3-year window there that we'll be able to capitalise. And whether that means getting into the Champions League next year or 3 or 4 years in a row, so our revenue gets bunked up, but the fans can't, like as I've always said before, we as fans, we can't drink out of a balance sheet at the end of the year. We can't drink out of 5th place. It's nice to have a cup that you can fill and drink out of at the end of the year and celebrate and put to end like 30 years of not having a trophy. So I do agree with you there that you really put an exclamation mark, or you underline, or you put something in bold when you win a trophy. And I don't think we're a million miles away from it. No. But I do think that this year's FA Cup was definitely a mischance. And I would say a lot of fans would agree with that as well, more so than wouldn't maybe.
Well, I'd question it, and I won't go too much onto the FA Cup. You're right, but I'd question. When you talk about the manager, who I do admire him greatly, by the way, he's done a fantastic job at Aston Villa. But after playing that Palace for so many times and didn't change his tactics, made me think that was a minus mark on him from me. But you're right. But back to the league again after that. You've done ever so well. You've beaten teams, and you're nearly. I mean, all depending on Sunday as to what happens with Forest and Chelsea. As to you get champion. I want Champions League for Aston Villa. I do. Again, I want to be in it again, because for the state of we cover Midlands football, and Midlands football is important. And Villa getting, and it was exciting from my point of view. That Villa are in the Champions League, and all my pals are Villa fans as well. Some of the co-commentators are as well. So I want that to happen, but and that'll be a great thing. And then obviously it's going to be see what happens in the summer, who you bring in, who leaves. I mean, I can't believe your goalkeeper could be leaving. That's a blow. That would worry me a little bit.
Don't mention the war there, Paddy. Don't mention the war. I think if we get into Champions League, we might see something different. But that is a kind of an elephant in the room. It's kind of a bad smell at the moment that he brought this. And my view on it is he brought this upon us by crying at Villa Park. None of us knew anything until that happened. No. And I kind of wish he didn't do it, because it's a distraction point, it's a talking point that that we're like. I did a piece last night on 4 different La Liga goalkeepers. I've got another piece coming out on 4 different League One goalkeepers. Now Villa would be trusted into maybe looking for, well, they'd definitely be looking for 1 goalkeeper because they don't have a sub goalkeeper, but now they potentially could be looking for 2. But anyway, that's something that I think will definitely bookend both sides of the transfer window, I think, for us as this goes on. Paddy, also, I need to run away myself in a moment. I'm no problem here, left, right, and centre, and I've got a baby monitor here beside me.
Absolutely.
So I got to have to run in a minute. I want to highlight something that you do as well, Paddy, just because there's people around, people in here, and there's a lot of people from Birmingham. We've got a lot of people from overseas as well watch this podcast, and you guys may not be able to make out, but Paddy's top here says "You are enough," and Paddy is very big, a advocate for men's mental health specifically and mental health awareness. And Paddy, talk to us about that initiative that you have going on at the moment. Go for it. Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got an organisation called Men's Health Walking and Talking that was set up in 2021 by Dan Reed. And basically, I'm one of the walk leaders for Sutton Coldfield in Birmingham here. So I get on Facebook and I ask people to come on a Wednesday night at 7, and we go for a walk and we talk together. And we've got now a bit, and also as well, I'm glad I'm on here. We've got a big partnership now with Age Concern and Friends First. So we have one of the old APs coming with us the last 2 weeks. Because obviously they face a lot of loneliness and a lot of problems with mental health. But yeah, that's what we do on a Wednesday. And we've had 10, 15, 16 fellas come every Wednesday night. It's been very beneficial for everybody. And it is only growing. We've only been going since February. But I'm hopeful we're making a difference. I know we are to men and their mental health. And they've said it all the way that they enjoy it when they come. And it's a safe space for everybody to come. There's no judgment. For me, it's been fantastic and brilliant to do something at least to try and stem this epidemic, which is suicide, as you already know, with mental health and men. So, thank you for allowing me to highlight that to you. Thank you.
Yeah. And anybody in around the Sutton Coldfield area, obviously it's all you got to do is drive and walk. And there's people you don't know, there's people you never see again. If there's something that's itching at the back of your brain, what better to do than sometimes just get it off your chest and talk to somebody that you never know. Yeah, and then you never know, you might become good mates. We all revelled in that great ad that Norwich had out, whereby the two lads were sitting alongside each other, and there's one real jovial guy, and there was one kind of fellow was more reserved, and then it actually turned out the real jovial guy was the person who was having the problems, and that's a great ad. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, type in Norwich men's mental health advert. It's striking. It'll catch you in the middle of your chest. But well done, Paddy, on that. And
no problem at all.
As I said, since I know there's a lot of people from Sutton Coldfield who will be listening to this podcast, all it takes is one visit. Could be the best visit that you ever. Could be the best walk you ever have.
Thanks
a million.
But there's a lot of Aston Villa fans who come on the walk from Birmingham, in Sutton Coldfield. So it's always a big talking point, Aston Villa, and that brings people together. Football, doesn't it? So that's another point that we always. A talking point that we would use for how's it gone. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep up the good work there.
It's good.
Paddy, listen, thanks a million for coming on.
Thanks very much.
Giving us everything, that United insight. A lot of my knowledge of United is basically what I read, and I don't know what to believe with regards to half of that as well, because there's so many conflicting voices about Man United and everybody's trying to be right. I just thought I'd get you on because obviously it's nice to get a fans and yourself, you have your own convictions, you have your own thoughts, you buck the trend at times, so it's nice to have that clear vision as well, so thanks for sharing that with us.
No problem at all. I think the good thing about being in the commentary position and also being in the media suite, you see Aston Villa players, ex-Villa, and you speak to a lot of journalists who will give you a bit of a knowledge of what's going on, so there's always that importance, isn't it, of seeing people at that end, which means a lot to me as well, because you can find out so much information as well and see what's going on, especially at Villa and at ourselves. So
absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Paddy, and thanks everybody for watching today. Bit earlier time than normal. 9 o'clock start today. We will be back tomorrow. Myself, Paddy, and Jay are going to be, not this Paddy Kelly are going to be on tomorrow, and we may even have another guest, so it could be a menage a four. What's the French for four? I can't remember.
Ménage trois. Ménage trois. I'm trying to think now.
Tomorrow. So please join us for that as well. And then obviously we'll have Team Sheet Tantrums, post-match podcasts, all that kind of stuff on Sunday. And hopefully we'll be celebrating Champions League. But thanks so much, Paddy Silk, for jumping on tonight. And thanks a million to everybody. Everybody go well, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.